The as I mentioned before, the fundamental base and policy was transparency and accuracy of, of information we provided because we need to have as much as possible of right intervention, either from partners, from our co-workers, from uh, policymakers, from steering committee, everybody, and that recommend uh, a proper information. Uh, the first question about could appear how we can preserve this information from a various cocktail as a name of information resources. Actually, most it was always at that time somebody from our team uh, who was providing the information usually, or well trusted partner, and that partner usually WHO. The personnel, the WHO personnel who was acting national partner, sharing the same, uh, yeah, they are working for international organization, working for WHO, but at the end of the day, they are local national citizens that and they sharing uh, the same vision of the importance of accurate and uh, the power of accurate and, and, and transparent information sharing. And that's actually helped a lot during that but history uh, to, to, to give a clear vision how to help our community and our citizens, uh, all of us by the end of the day, either working in the public sector or uh, different partners. We are by the end of the day service providers. And as I mentioned before, that in wartime between two uh, armed force, both of them governmental at that time, both of them have their intelligence, and both of them, for some extent, sharing the same uh, uh, and assured uh, view against against us, all of us, as as, as healthcare provider and doctors, because of a history of the revolution that the healthcare providers and doctors, especially leading, and then they played the great role that revolution and the voice of all the healthcare uh, sector at that time actually put us in focus, and in some incidents lead even to discrimination against some of colleagues who actually some of them severely injured. We lost some of them in some incidents. May Allah take their thoughts.
Inshallah, may they rest in peace. Our souls and our condolences go to every matriarch of the war in Sudan, and for every victim that fell through the immense tragedy that happened in Sudan.
Agree. Agree.
Um, Thank you, Dr. Nogut. So this was really insightful. This was really insightful in the terms of assigning focal points for not only community-based surveillance, but also for indicator-based surveillance based on partnerships that you have created with um, um, agencies and with other organizations through the EOC, the virtual EOC, as you mentioned, and the redundant location that you had in Medani.
Mhm.
I would like you to describe the events that followed during the first 24 hours in terms of chain of command, the information flow. We've already speak briefly about the information flow on the network that was formed during the training and how that same network was used to assess the functionality of EOCs in each state through the director of emergency in each state and the flow of information and reporting um, as assigned. Um, was also would like to know, as you mentioned, you were trying to get people outside of Khartoum when you went to Jazeera. But let us not forget the staff situation. How did this affect the staff relocation security? Can you guide us through that, please? And the chain of command. Who did they follow, and how did that affect the safety and security of the staff during the first 24 hours?
Okay. That's actually it was our time that time. Okay. During that time, the first 24 hours we had little accessibility to on a chain command to document the info. Uh, we made the first step that everybody is supposed to uh, relocate to Jazeera. We made that clear. We advise everybody to get them to address their safety first, their family, and after that they can communicate on Jazeera. Me myself and my family I worked over there, and most of the people stopped playing. Actually, the the tragic point was when we lost all the communications with uh, in command with Mr. Haitham at that time, the hotel, the general director of emergency federal Montasir, who was actually trapped in Mafia, and Haitham was the first side of the war room here to Khartoum International Airport, and Dr. Father was there in command on Darfur at that time, and that actually suddenly I found myself uh, getting the, the, the a lot of making decisions and strategy and planning for my shoulder at that time. The good thing that we know, uh, AUC, as you know, headed by Minister of Health and David Fahy, the federal emergency manager, and directed the executive part and ICS and IMS by me. So the clear uh, uh, three command make it easier to transfer that transferring the information, transferring
Responsibilities.
the responsibility to me. But at the same time, it was pressure until I get most of my team. Working alone, it's a lot itself, and the team at that time wasn't uh, around. Uh, at that time, I had the 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 the, the, the lower hanging fruit of that training. In Jazeera, uh, the director of emergency state and few of his team was actually trained with us on the scenario I told you before, and it was easy to find place, find well-trained personnel helping. We started the surveillance system, we started the incident system, and the technology like internet. Uh, we lost everything over there in Khartoum, even our uh, computers and laptops and all the devices. And uh, our partners in the WHO was so generous that to share with me the accessibility to internet and devices to use it to, uh, to, to keep that bulletin running and uh, issuing on a daily basis.
Thank you, Dr. Nagud. Next question is going to be on the re-establishment of the EOC in Jazeera State and the safety and security of the relocated staff. How did you rebuild the redundant EOC from the scratch up? And talk us through the network of the partnerships that you have created there and the alternative operation routes taken in accessing not only the accessible states, but also states that were not under the jurisdiction of the government or the Humanitarian Aid Commission.
Uh, After we, we settled in Madrid, the first step was retaining, because EOC actually in criminology is five systems. The first of them is centralized physical uh, base center to, to get everybody, your staff, partners, uh, uh, decision makers together to get the use of it. So in Madrid, the state minister of health was so generous to help us with providing the place. We use it. We use it's not it's emergency settable with some meeting room and internet accessibility. Meeting room was big enough to accommodate everybody. We had small office to run our daily paperwork and information analysis on it with their staff too. And after we accomplished that, we went to the second aspect that uh, the ICS. We have incidents. That incident we are managed by 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 uh, personal or person that's personnel. I mean everywhere aspect their way of treating it, and they was so generous in doing that, but it wasn't aligned together to not duplicate that effort. And the main challenge was the inaccessible places. If you are in uh, RSF zone, uh, we cannot reach you, and you cannot even reach us in a daily life uh, because of, as I mentioned before, for parties intelligence and their suspicious uh, about medical staff, medical tools, health providers at that time. So we use uh, different different uh, different pathways, different aspects. And sometimes to send, for example, uh, medications to some of the hospitals in Khartoum, we had to use a fisherman boat. We give it to them. Sometimes we just hide in a vegetable cup, okay, and the doctor by the other side actually take all the risk to to take it out and give it to the people because they will be criminalized by 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 the armed force at that time uh, by conspiracy with, with, with the other party. Uh, the information was for some extent moved by by the cocktail of resources I mentioned it before. But at that time in Madani, we had to settle in yeah, it's coming from there, but need to be refiltered, uh, rechecked, and uh, at that time we established our. Uh, Actually, it's not establishing it. We gather our surveillance, most of the surveillance team personnel together, and they started that analyzing for the information and new factors came in. It was at the beginning just the casualties, the deaths, the injuries, the type of it. And in Sudan, we have always many epidemics and diseases running the world still. COVID for some extent, yellow fever, because some of cholera, everything, malaria, chikungunya.
Um,
Uh, yeah,
Thank
we
you.
have a cocktail to capture it up. So this was the sorry, that was the fourth aspect of the information gathering, how we use it, and the fifth and the last one was the resource management. We started to having some resources coming from partners, uh, WHO, UNICEF, uh, Qatar Foundation, uh, King Salman, uh, Red Cross International. Uh, that was the fifth aspect, and that was the next challenge we had. Warehouses, truck, how to accommodate, save it, store it, and distribute it, and how it can be with society.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nugut, for the very informative partnership mechanism during war and during the alternative pathways for the patient journey and providing patient equity in areas that are both government reached and non government reach. We saw the international community and the UN condemning both parties equally and seizing direct funds deposited into all government facilities, including Ministry of Health, in the first 6 months, and some of them still today, and replacing that into direct implementation by the organization itself to preserve the integrity of the response and the proper allocation of the resources. How did this affect the operations, and did it have any implications on the health services provided and equity in delivering services?
Okay. It played a role for some extent, especially in the beginning. After 3 weeks, we started we actually gained our communications to the steering committee with with the Ministry of Health, with Kaizen, with Moktasir at that time, and actually we followed a clear vision that uh, the international community, the donors, to be more clear, actually they take sides. Everybody takes sides, but we are a health provider. We are not allowed to take sides. Yes, we are employee. We are government employee, and we are community and civilian servants, and this is our role. And and by that aspect, actually, I believe they could provide me with much of resources it could be deployed at that time. Uh, Plus, adding to that, we are part of the international community and part of the work. At that time, uh, many clashes actually happening in different sides of war. So Gaza by side, uh, Ukraine by side. That affects for some extent the support we get to Sudan. Uh, but it's still the relation they could build, uh, especially Minister of Health at that time, to have some personal relations with some of the donors in Gulf country. Uh, Dr. Montasir, with his experience, he was one of the consultants and workers for WHO for uh, several years. He, they could lead some and provide me as my role back again to be the incident manager instead of taking their places in the field. They provide me with a lot of uh, 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 equipment, tools, and resources. Uh, Help at that time to relieve, uh, for some extent, uh, some of injured, some of them in several sides.
Um, Thank you, Dr. Nugud. Um, I will ask you this question in terms of providing service equity in host versus IDP using the partnerships and as you mentioned. So as you have previously mentioned that a network has been formed in accessible and inaccessible states to Ministry of Health. Both staff that worked in both jurisdictions were MOH employees or partners who directly implemented the interventions, and by distribution of fair supplies and human resources, you ensured the equity in delivering the services to the Sudanese nationals and IDPs, as well as the refugees from other countries.
Yeah.
My question is, what was the mechanism that was taken to ensure the implementation of the activities in both areas on all interventions done? for IDPs versus host community? What was the mechanism
Okay.
taken to ensure implementation?
Okay. To be clear, until today, I believe there was a great diligence and sharpness of what we provided to people and to IDPs and to to, to affected citizens in different places. It wasn't that great equal because sometimes the accessibility itself and sometimes because of the resource we have at that time. But it was what I'm sure of, it was the maximum and the much uh, what was in our hand to do. Uh, by saying that, uh, in the areas we have the full accessibility to it, I mean the east side of the country, north side of the country, uh, it was a little bit easier to deploy that role to our partners because they can do it. So we give it to international sector for some extent by monitoring of definitely of governmental sector from state to help on doing that. In some areas like zones, we actually I forget to mention that we divided the country to zones. It was a green zone. It was also a yellow zones and red zones, and there is a black zones too at that time. Black zones was areas we couldn't reach at all, and we couldn't communicate. We could communicate, but we cannot reach it. Like area in South Kordofan, how that we had information from there about the, what's happening, but and there's no actually clashes having inside it that area, but at the same time it's surrounded by by great red zone. Nobody can reach it or cross it to 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 reach over there. In hot zones, the red zones, like the capital Khartoum itself, it was divided in sectors inside it. For example, uh, if there is accessibility to the hospital or the health provider who's available over there to give them they needed resources and tools uh, by 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 actually any kind of partner ways like NSA, Red Cross, we use that too, okay, to the maximum extent. Sometimes it wasn't even any running operation for any of our partners at the area. We use different tools. We use the, the local community to deploy that resources. As I mentioned before, the examples of the fisherman and the beautiful trader in Bawamban and the fisherman in Umdurman. And that's having people time just to ensure that uh, they have at least the minimum of their needed resources, okay, to keep uh, patients and treat the injuries of at the area. And that's heavy weapons. And at that areas, we use actually a lot of our medical health providers to risk their life to provide the services daily. They went from green zone to yellow zone and back again by night to green zones. And that's happening in different areas. That's like uh, the villages near to Khartoum, between Khartoum and Jazeera, the area at near at the end in Sodari, North Kordofan, uh, the areas at Fula, Kadugla at that time, at West Kordofan. Such these are examples. Green zones was uh, in a better shape, but actually lacking the the the, the capacity to play that what we lost in Khartoum, to play the role of Khartoum hospitals. For some extent, we could uh, upgrade some of the hospitals in Madani, in Port Sudan, uh, in
The green zones.
Ankara. Yeah, that's in green zone. Okay. So the green zone was actually playing uh, the tertiary level for who could be uh, transported or uh, sneak or swing from the red to yellow zone. And from yellow zone, we have, as I mentioned before, that our crews was risking their lives. Uh, at the beginning was drive influences, and we will find that sometimes even
This takes me to my next
the
question, Dr. Nugud. Sorry to interrupt, but this takes me to my next question. Since government and hack regulated partnerships and partners' accountability and implementation, that was no longer valid when the conflict happened because no one had, at the beginning, hack did not have legitimacy to monitor and evaluate partners and hold them accountable for implementation. How did you work through deploying teams, deploying doctors, running operations, and deploying missions in hot zones versus green zones versus otherwise? How did you manage to work through partners, um, ensuring accountability on implementation of partners?
okay, uh, it's a different uh, method at that time. The principle was moral, uh, volunteering, and uh, and and the ability for rescuing their time alive. That's actually what's happening at that time. Most of who's working either from partner side or from our team, who are nobody get paid for anything. Was the we everybody was volunteering, and it was the moral aspect, helping people in need. Okay, was was the motivator for everybody. Let me give you a small example. Most of who that group was was Sudanese. Some of them, yeah, international staff, but most of partners, international staff, actually fleet, and that makes a little bit difficult uh, to, to to hold them accountable for their role as they supposed to, because the decision maker wasn't there at that time. But turns out at that time, some of their national crews were still on ground, and they took the initiative to help and to stand in front. Some of international crews. That's why I'm repeatedly mentioning MSF crews, who's actually either they're national or international. They were accountable enough to work under fire to help people in need that time.
Thank you, Dr. Noor.
But anyhow, it's like the end of the day, but just their principle, their principle, its humanitarian morals was motivating everybody to work.
That is really noted. And from my own personal experience during that first 8 months of war, Dr. Nugud, I remember having communication with the EOC and how we all work together in securing the safety, accessibility routes with the satellite connection on the routes and accessible roads, how we shared maps, how we shared information on casualties, how we deployed each other's staff through the network that we've worked on deploying doctors to hospitals with different specialities as needed, how we manage the information flow, how we manage the supply transmission and the supply delivery, securing each way bill and ensuring that the end receiver was the patient, accounting for every patient type of injury, type of wound, and the referral pathway that they took afterwards. And I also remember sustaining redundancy in EOCs from Medani to Port Sudan to Kassala, supplying the infrastructure from having it be a physical location due to the looting and the repeated misuse by the conflict of the facility to having it being transmitted to a virtual, sustaining the incident management structure, allocating focal people for each department, and keeping the information flow running, and as well as keeping the monitoring and evaluation well and alive through the bulletin that you have shared, that we have on some occasions co-authored with WHO interventions and the supply that was dispatched. Um, Keeping every action point accounted for, attending every virtual meeting. And I also remember the Minister of Health being in every WhatsApp call, in every virtual call, and in every meeting, whether small or big, following up with partners' participation with no pay and only the benefit of the end user patient, the national and the international, the civilians and the refugees of Sudan, every person who occupied Sudan, having their well being at the dead center of the focus of the interventions. I thank you so much, Dr. Nugut, for your intervention with us today. And I would like you to share with us um, um, what is your takeaway message to the people of Sudan and the task force of the Sudan working through this controversy?
I believe it's my message, my first message is for my 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 colleagues in the health sectors and the health providers. We are messengers of humanitarian. Uh, our principle is to heal injuries. Uh, so we cannot play a role in taking a side uh, that could affect anybody or affect our citizens. and even any human being in any in his case. I personally condemn any kind of harm and source of harm having to any human being and any civilian uh, in whole air, either it's from Ukraine, Sudan, uh, we, it's not about, it's enough to be a human, uh, to respect your color, your religions, or your culture or your language. That's our message. Our that's what we choose for ourselves. And I'm so uh, honored to serve with such kind of teams that and I believe they are still there facing the challenges uh, on ground. And this is the first, second one. I'm so grateful to all of partners who work and share to relieve some of the pains and to relieve some of the injuries and to, to, to save some of the life, to feed some of the starving children in my country, Sudan. And I believe one of the great lessons we learned that we need, yes, we need international experience, we need staff to, to, to share, to, to, to provide uh, different aspects and different knowledge. But at the end of the day, if I have an advice in such kind of country in Africa and any unsettled, stable, and destabilized places, national well-trained, well-trained uh, troops will be the, the different number when needed, and I hope uh, that can be facilitated and uh, taken in account uh, in coming days and in future, not just in Sudan, it's everywhere, in Sudan, Afghanistan, Lebanon, everywhere that we need. And my last message for the um, first purpose of war that we suffered a lot as Sudanese citizens, and uh, uh, nobody can. It's a war without the winner, and but there is a lot of loss on on on, on process. Uh, I hope that find an ear and find a place in your soul to just take uh, in you take in account that uh, citizens, civilians, and health providers are not part of this world, and they are not the enemy, and they are here to help. Thanks a lot for me, giving me this opportunity to share this thoughts and ideas.
Thank you, Dr. Nugget. And I chose to have you on this episode because I know the nature of your work, and I know the nature of your work during the first 24 hours in securing the staff situation. and ensuring sustaining momentum of implementation, because every hour lost is a child life lost. Thank you so much, Dr. Nugut, and I wish you all the best in your endeavor in the United States. And please keep us in your thoughts and share with us your experiences whenever you get a chance to. And hopefully, if you will do me the honors of being on my show again, I will be honored. Thank you so much, Dr.
Uh,
Nugut.
well, it's my thank you. I appreciate you. Like, take care, doctor.
Thank you. Bye bye.